You've been lied to about your feminine energy. If you've ever struggled with self-sabotage, people-pleasing, or burnout, or you struggle to embody a true sense of self-trust, creative energy, or passion, then you're probably struggling with your feminine energy. And it's time you learn the truth about why that is, so that you can get yourself unstuck and into a life of meaning, passion, and empowerment as your authentic self. Hi there, I'm Antonie, and I empower female entrepreneurs and goal-oriented women to break free from the disempowering societal norms that keep you stuck in self-sabotage, people-pleasing, and overworking yourself, so that you can pursue your passions with self-trust, meaning, and self-worth, knowing that 80% of success is mindset. So to build your dream life, you first need to grow your beliefs, habits, and thoughts. Now, if that sounds like something for you, make sure to click that subscribe button and keep on watching. So my partner Lucas shared something with me from a book that he's been reading called A New Earth: Awakening to Your Life's Purpose by Eckhart Tolle. So if you disagree with the topic we're going to bring up in this video, take it up with that author. But I really just feel like this is such a powerful insight to have and such an important awareness about the feminine energy for women to have. So the truth is that most women in today's society end up rejecting, suppressing, or judging our feminine traits and qualities, such as love, softness, receptivity, joy, compassion, ease, flow, creativity. And this isn't necessarily just a coincidence. And it's not just because of patriarchy and the way that the masculine traits and abilities get celebrated, because that in its own is kind of just a result. Today, what we're going to look at is why that has happened in the first place, and why so many people will think that the feminine energy is the weaker energy, or the energy that we need to suppress or judge or reject within ourselves and within other people. And not only that, but I'm hoping that with this video, you'll also start seeing why it's so essential, why you shouldn't be rejecting and judging that feminine energy within you. So to dive into what the author describes in this book, we first have to cover what he calls the pain body. And in simple terms, the pain body is a part of us that feeds on pain. And it's something that we all have within us. And so because it feeds on pain, it's kind of always trying to stir up painful emotions and experiences so that it can stay strong. And it's kind of like a muscle that builds the more protein you eat. The pain body builds and gets stronger the more pain you experience and feels. And so it's always trying to stir up pain to build that muscle. And the pain body does this by keeping you attached to painful emotions, experiences, and memories. And personally, I just kind of imagine if you've seen Stranger Things, you know, the big scary creature that comes from the upside down. I kind of just imagine the pain body being like that and being that kind of creature that just takes on new things and just grows and grows and grows the more it feeds. And so like I mentioned, the pain body exists within all of us on a personal level. But it also exists on a collective level, where we share the same pain body as a human species. And the way that that works is that our personal pain bodies become stronger the more we feed on each other's pain bodies. And we kind of fuel each other up. And so you can see that so much in the way that media has evolved and the way that they constantly focus on the horrific news, and they always try to make titles that make you click because you get scared, or you feel judgment, or you feel angry. And so you click on that article, and then a lot of times when you read, you're like, what, this isn't a big deal at all, or this is just something random. But the way that they got you in is by feeding on your fear and your judgment and your anger, and that is the pain body. And we can also have direct interactions with other people, where we basically just end up feeding off of each other's anger and fear and worries. And so it's kind of like if you've ever had a day when you're just like not really in a bad mood or anything, you're fine, but then you interact with someone who's really in a bad mood, and then suddenly you kind of come back and you're in a bad mood, and then all of a sudden you're both just in this really angry, upset mood. That is the interaction where one pain body feeds on the other, and then they both grow stronger. And on top of that, we can also experience generational pain bodies, where our bodies will store the trauma and pain of the generations before us, which is especially true for certain groups of people, very much including women. That you may not just be experiencing your pain as a woman in today's society, but you're also experiencing the pain that your grandmother felt as a woman in her society. And it's all stored in your DNA. And so you might be wondering, okay, maybe this is true, but what does this have to do with my feminine energy? And so what the author of this book proposes, and the key that I really want to highlight in this video, and that I think that you deserve to know, is that he argues that generations ago, the pain body grew and became stronger and arised more in men and the masculine than it did in women and the feminine. And the reason he says that this is what happened is because the masculine energy resides in the mind, while the feminine energy resides in the body. And I just want to make a super quick note. If you're like, feminine, masculine energy, what are you talking about? Then check out this video above here that goes a bit deeper into what these different energies are all about. So if you're feeling lost, then check that one out and then just come back here. But so like I said, the masculine energy resides in the mind and the feminine energy resides in the body, which means that the feminine energy, and therefore people who predominantly live in the feminine energy, which generally includes women, people who are more connected with their feminine energy will therefore also be more connected with their intuition, with their emotions, and the spiritual as well as nature, which also has incredible healing powers. And so women who were more connected to nature and their intuition and so on had a greater ability to step out of the pain body and not be consumed by it like the pain body wants to do, because that's what the pain body is always striving to do, is striving to take over and be in control. But when you're more connected to your body, your emotions, and what has healing powers and the intuition, as opposed to kind of living in your mind, then the pain body has a way tougher job of taking over you. And then the question is, why does any of this matter? It matters because generations ago, when the pain body started rising more in men and the masculine, these women who weren't so consumed by the pain body were deemed as a threat. Not consciously, but subconsciously, because of the pain body, because these women were deemed as a threat to the pain body because it wasn't able to feed on their pain bodies and it wasn't able to grow the way that it would when people weren't as connected to their feminine energy. Another very cool but also scary point that the author brings up is that these women who were deemed as a threat generations ago were the ones who were claimed to be witches. And you were hunted down and literally burned at the stake because the pain body saw intuition, emotional agility, and the spiritual, which are all feminine attributes, as a threat to its existence. And so it's not just a coincidence that you've been raised and conditioned to believe that the feminine is lesser or weaker or not as great or something that you should put aside or suppress or judge or reject. It's not a coincidence. And it's not because of a good reason either. It's not because it actually is. It's because it's actually the cure against the pain body. It's the cure against aggression, against biases, against judgment, against burnout, against self-doubt, against toxic relationships. Now, I just want to point out, I'm not trying to say that the masculine energy is bad and you should start suppressing and rejecting that. But I am saying that you need the balance, and it's time for you to stop thinking that the feminine energy is something lesser or something that deserves to be neglected, and instead actually see it for the powers that it has and actually start taming your own pain body so that you don't end up living in a life full of toxicity and resentment and burnout and aggression, because you're letting that pain body just rise and feed because you're only living in your masculine energy and not healing it through your feminine energy. And now, after generations of women being pushed to live way too much in their masculine because that's what they needed to survive, because if they were living in their feminine, they would be burnt at the stake or seen as witches. And so gradually, we just lived more and more and more in our masculine energy, and we repressed that feminine energy within us. And you can see the same thing when women started being allowed into businesses in the corporate world in the Western society. The way that they did that was essentially to behave like men and just start dressing more like men and acting more like men and thinking more like men, because that was the only way that they were allowed a foot in the door. And again, that is that pain body that sees intuition and flow, compassion, empathy as a threat. Because if this comes in, then the pain body dies down. And so we reject them. And so we say, hey, if you're a woman and you want to come in, you have to better get you set in the masculine energy, because if not, not interested. And of course, I'm not saying that men or the male or the masculine or anyone consciously thought that. They didn't think, ooh, this is a threat to my pain body, I don't like this. They didn't consciously think that, and they're still not thinking that. But that is what subconsciously is going on. And the problem now as well is that women now live with huge pain bodies. One, because they've trained themselves to suppress their feminine energy, their intuition, their authenticity. But I think not only do they live with the common pain body that we're all living with, in terms of that collective pain body and in terms of suppressing our feminine and living way more in our masculine, but I think in many ways we get an added pain body, or just an addition to the pain body, resulting from spending so long suppressing the dominant part of themselves and dealing with the guilt, shame, and fear over our own authenticity, and feeling like there's a truer part within you, but that part is the one that you need to hide or suppress. And again, not saying that anyone is thinking this consciously, but I feel like if you can start realizing that the feminine energy hasn't been deemed bad because it actually is, it's not because it actually is weaker, and it's not because it's actually any good or logical reason for you to suppress it, then one, you can start approaching it from a better understanding and awareness and actually opening up to your feminine energy. And through that as well, you can start separating yourself from the pain body and from the limiting conditioning of society. And you can learn to love and cherish the feminine within you, knowing its healing powers and knowing how important it is. And only through doing this, you can start trusting your intuition, living authentically, and avoiding burnout and living a life in misalignment. And that is it. I really hope this video brought you some value. I feel like for me, when my partner told me about what he had read about in his book, I feel like it just made so much sense. And it just put the pieces together for why certain things have happened in history and why things are happening the way they are now, and what even made us feel like the feminine energy was such a big problem. And I feel like for me personally, it also makes it even easier to understand the male and the masculine, and understanding that it's not a conscious decision that they're doing. And it's not a conscious decision that women living more in their masculine energy than their predominant feminine energy are doing anything bad, or that they're doing it consciously. But just understanding that it's the pain body taking over. And by understanding this and tapping more into our feminine energy and healing that pain body, we can also make sure that we heal the collective pain body. And so it's not just about healing yourself, it's also about healing the collective. So feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this topic and if it makes sense to you. And make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on the next videos. In the meantime, I really recommend checking out these two videos to learn more about how to tap into your authentic, passionate, and feminine energy. So I'll see you over there.